What up, everybody? Welcome back to The Reel Down. I'm your host, Jimmy Skinner. Back this week, The Reel Down's turning into just like you never know who you're going to get. It's going to be me. It's going to be Garrett. It's going to be me and Garrett. Not going to be Garrett. It's going to be Sean. Welcome to the show, Sean Lavery. We brought the Noob, the king of the Noob show over here to hang out with us. How you doing?
Not bad, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I've had you on The Reel Down before. I know
Well,
I've been on your show. I don't know if we've done it the other way.
I don't think so because I haven't been super successful at my tournament fishing. So
I mean, that's kind of why I'm a podcast host, because I suck at fishing. So well, we're at that right there. Lets everybody know why he's here, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, good to be back. I will go ahead for all my YouTube people watching. You're going to see the tissue come out a lot. My allergies have gone crazy and my face is leaking. So apology for that and all the sneezing and coughing you may hear in your earbuds. But yeah, so for anybody, I know we have a lot of crossover with our audiences. But for anybody that doesn't know Sean, doesn't listen to the other paddle and fin stuff, Sean, tell everybody a little bit about you, like what you do, how you got into kayak fishing, but also tell everybody like what your role is with paddle and fin.
all right. Well, Sean Lavery. I'm the host of the Bass Fishing for Noob show here on the Paddle and Fin podcast.
The number one segment in paddle and fin. I'm going to throw that out there.
I have been fishing for a long time in my life, but I didn't really get into it until I met my father-in-law, and that was kind of a way for us to bond. That started with trout fishing, and I really like trout fishing, and that kind of gave us an excuse to go out and be together and at least get to know each other. And then I started dabbling in bass fishing a little bit, but didn't have any luck at it really whatsoever. I ended up in 2016. I had a heart attack, which was
I always forget about that.
Kind of an eye opener for me. And at that point, I was training for a half marathon. I was playing volleyball twice a week. So I was running a ton, playing volleyball a ton, thought I was in the best shape of my life, but it turns out my cholesterol wasn't great, just more hereditary reasons than anything. And so after the heart attack, a lot of my really high-end cardio stuff I couldn't do. And I was just going stir crazy at home and wanted to do something. And so I had been, bugging the wife to buy a kayak for a long time. And so I don't know if I had like a honeymoon after the heart attack period, but I kind of got to get a few things that I had been denied previously. So I bought a Tarpon 100 Wilderness Systems and, started fishing from that, and really didn't have much luck at all, but I kept at it. And I ended up switching to Jackson Coosa HD after maybe a year, just for their stability. And man, that I loved that Jackson. It was, I mean, I'm not a huge guy, and I could stand in that and kind of jump around, and it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And about that time is when I started, a pretty good drive to work for like 45 minutes. And so I started listening to podcasts and stuff, and Paddle and Fin was probably one of my first stops. And
somehow you were listening to Milford.
Yep. I started listening to Ryan do the Noobs show. And after listening for a few months, I kind of noticed that he was one of the few hosts that didn't have a co-host at that point. And so I typed up an email to him. I think I always joke that I typed it up and deleted it probably 5 times, thinking, who's this guy's going to think, who the heck is this guy reaching out to me to, be on my show? And I just said, hey, I saw that you didn't have a host, and were you thinking about it? I'd like to do it. And one thing led to another. And he was like, I actually was thinking about that. And he's like, well, I'll talk to you. So I had probably an hour conversation with him. And then he had me talk to Brian, and I had like a 30-minute conversation with Brian. Both of them were, like, yeah, 100%, let's do this. And, that week was my first week. And that was, I forget how many years it's been now, but
yeah, I think I've been here right at 3, and you came in like a month before I did.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was, I don't know, when you started is just kind of like how I remember it. I don't understand why. So I honestly had not heard of Paddle and Fin too long before Dan Perry reached out to me because they were looking for somebody to do a new canoe episode with.
Okay.
And I started listening. And I think like my second show was the show that I listened to Milford, and then I listened to the next episode was your first show, and then did that episode that I was in, and then I made a joke with Dan Perry. He's like, if you ever need a co-host, I think I meant it more as a guest. Like, if you ever need a stand-in, and then he texted me like the next Monday and was like, hey, what are you doing like on Mondays? And I was like when? He was like, I don't know, forever. I was like, what? And then I got in, and then it's me and you have been here for a while. Milford came and gone, and we miss him, and Dan's gone. It's been crazy changes for PNF. I'm
It
not trying to
has.
get off on a side tangent, but I was thinking about this today. Like, I feel like it's like I think about like the good old days, like because Brad and Matt aren't here. Susie's on your show. She doesn't have her show anymore.
Armando's come and gone, and
yeah, Armando. Just all sorts of stuff, man. It's just been crazy. And I don't know what's got me stuck on thinking about it. It's just like I've been here long enough. It's not all that's happened in like 5 minutes. It's like I've been here through all of it. Like, it's crazy.
And like it doesn't feel like 3 years. It feels like to me like 10 years. But
that's what's crazy is like it started for me. I'm trying to remember. I think it started like for me right at COVID. Oh no, I know it did.
Really?
Because I was I'll never forget it. COVID's going on. I'm drinking a Corona in the video, and Schiller made a joke about it. Like, because that was when they were
Right.
talking about Corona was having sales problems because of their name. No, they were not, because I was helping them out. But it's cool, man. I always love getting to talk to you, and I don't know. I love your show, and it's been so cool to watch you. I mean, because for everybody listening, Sean's show is Bass Fishing for Noobs, and it comes from that perspective. Like, you don't know what you're doing. You're trying to learn. This is a great place to learn. And like me and Schiller talked about it at Del Hollow, like watching your progress. Like, like all the day, like when you and Milford had the tourney, and it was like y'all were each just catching like small fish to add to those numbers and stuff like that. And then it's turned all the way around into, I mean, you caught, what was your PB that you caught?
So my PB smallmouth was 21.5, and
Got me by half an inch.
that was and you know what? In that tournament, I did not wing big bass. I thought for sure.
That's depressing.
I know. I rolled into the awards at the end, and I was like, yeah, I got this. And then the guy who had kind of mentored me as a TD. And kind of I replaced him this year, but he's like, oh no, I got you. I got 22 inches. And I was like, what? You're kidding me.
Smallmouth too?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I just thought about it. You said you had 21.5. My big's a 20 and a quarter, I think. So you had me, I'm pretty sure. I don't even remember. That's how out of it I am. I have no idea. I've only caught one over 20, and that was it.
Okay.
That's pretty insane, though.
I'm still looking for my 20 this year. I don't. The last 3 years I've got a 20, and I haven't got one yet. The one I caught on Saturday we'll talk about was 19.75, so it was close. But
I'll never forget. So I got into when I got into kayak fishing, I didn't have trouble catching fish, just because I've like fished before, but it took me like I think a year to catch a 20, but I caught like 20 1975s. It became comical. Like to the point, like my wife was in on it. I'd send her a picture of me holding up a fish. She'd be like, guarantee it's a 1975. It's not a 20. I was like, give me a break. Well, so yeah, we went over a little bit of what you've done with us and our backstories and everything, but let's get into this tournament. So the way we usually do it, we'll do it the same way we do on the Reel Down normally, is we'll let you first tell us about the club, because I actually haven't heard of this club, and then the event was on the lower Susquehanna, which, like you said, before you started recording, kind of your like home waters, your stomping ground. So, tell me a little bit about the club, as you said, you're director, and then tell me about the area and kind of how like that area of the Susky lays out, because we've done a lot of Susky shows on here. We love to talk about it for obvious reasons. But take it away.
Yeah. All right. So my club is Kayak Anglers of Central PA. Kayak Anglers in general is a pretty big club across all of Pennsylvania, some Ohio. I can't remember how many chapters we have total, but Central PA is my home chapter. Our events kind of cover Central PA, but it goes pretty far up the Susky. Like the farthest event away from me is about 2 hours north for the lower or for the southern boundary. So it's a little bit of a hike for me, but again, it's good for me because it forces me to fish different waters than what I used to. I mean, I'm spoiled because I have the Susquehanna 15 minutes away from me. And that is where the tournament this past weekend was. So I was joking with the guys, like, if there's going to be a tournament I should do good in, it should be this one, because I do fish it very frequently. I'm usually out on the water at least twice a week. I try to anyway. Don't always succeed, but so it was basically my section of the river, separated on both top and bottom boundaries by dams. So you have the Safe Harbor Dam on the north, the York Haven Dam on the north, and the Safe Harbor Dam on the south.
Are those just like low head style dams on the Susky?
No, they're big.
Okay.
They're giant. Like you pull up to it and it's stories above you. Yeah. And if the lights turn on, you want to get the heck away from them, because that means they're opening the gates and you better not be there. But I didn't go down that far. I really fished kind of the section that I usually do fish. I had practiced on a few nights before. I didn't get out right about. I think the tournament was on a Saturday. Thursday evening started a rise where the river jumped pretty good, not to the point where it was like flooded, and it didn't even really get that off color or muddy, which a lot of times happens with the Susky when the water rises like that. But there was a pretty good rise. So I had fished the very beginning of the rise Thursday afternoon when I got off work. I just was going to go out and see what I could find, and just see any patterns I could put together, knowing it was kind of going to crest right about the time the tournament started on Saturday. So I did a lot of fishing my normal stuff, Ned rig in the rocks, and was catching, I caught a lot of fish, but they were all tiny, like dinks. Like, I think my biggest fish that day when I was practicing was 15 inches. And I want to say that was on a jackhammer. I bumped into a guy on the ramp, and he's like, "Hey, I was having luck. We have a pretty good sized bridge, right up from where I put in. And again, the river at that point's a mile wide, so it's a long bridge with tons of bridge piers, and then right behind that bridge is the old bridge, the bridge that you hear about the burning in the Civil War to stop the Confederates from getting any further north."
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's literally right there. So the guy said, "Yeah, I was throwing a jackhammer around the old bridge piers, the burned down bridge piers." And so I actually tried that and had some luck. I caught like 3 on the jackhammer doing that. And like I said, those were the 3 biggest fish that I caught. The Ned rig was just picking up dink after dink after dink. So
this section of the Susky, is it still? I'm familiar with the river to the point of like doing the tournament recap, but not like specifics of the location, because I know it does span such a long distance. But is like you said, it's a mile wide, but is it still like more of the shallow, shoaly, ripply water, or is, because of where it sits between these dams, is it more not lake like, but just deeper?
So there's a little bit of both. Like right by the dam below me, probably, if I didn't quite go down that far, I'll talk about. I went right to kind of the edge of it's called Lake Clark. Lake Clark's right north of Safe Harbor Dam, and there it is, 15 to 20 foot regularly. And but there's a couple of reasons why I don't like to fish that. A, because the shallower the better
fishing
for me.
Sucks.
That, And offshore, that's not my game.
No.
I'm still learning. And also, that's also the biggest boat traffic area. And on Labor Day weekend, there's
Oh, I
tubers.
didn't think about that.
Usually, but I was surprised. I didn't see as much boat traffic as I expected. But it's jet ski heaven. It's tuber heaven. It's that's where all the big boats are down on the lake because it's deeper and you don't have to worry about the rocks as much. So I kind of as the furthest south I went was just north of kind of that area. But I had talked to a buddy also went out on his boat on Thursday evening. Wasn't he was just pleasure fishing, but he had told me that he had really like ran into a pattern on crankbaits down at just at the north part of that lake area, and so I was like, well, I can paddle down there. I have all day. It's a 6-2 tournament, so normally I wouldn't paddle down that far because I don't always fish for long enough to make it worthwhile pedaling the whole way down there. Kayak Anglers is as an organization is still human powered only, with the exception of if you have some kind of disability or something documented. We allow motors for those folks, but we're human powered only. So I knew it would be a heck of a pedal/paddle to get down there, but I was like, yeah, it's worthwhile. And I got all day, so I might as well go down and see what's happening. But I would work my way down because through the areas that I normally fish, there's some really good rocks and ledges on the way down. There's a creek mouth. There's actually a couple creek mouths, some marinas with some boat docks, although I usually don't do too well on the boat docks on the river. They're more concrete. It's not like, the floating docks as much.
Yeah.
But so I'd practiced and wasn't finding a whole lot, but I figured after I talked to my buddy who said the crankbait, or he had found a good crankbait bite, I was like, okay, well that's what'll do for my plan. I'll work down to go through my normal spots, and then after I kind of wear that out, see what I find there, then I'll head down to the spot where he was cranking right on the north of the deep water there. And so tournament morning got there on the water, got right at 6. We could be on the water at 5:30. Lines in was at 6, but I usually fish the area right by where I launch. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go out and disturb that. I'm going to let it, as fresh as I can. And only one other guy launched where I launched, and he went.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Or a terrible feeling, depending. So.
Well, I mean, the spot where I launch isn't actually like a boat ramp, and that's why I launched there. It's like more of a gravel kind of. I can back my truck down and put my kayak in, but boat trailers don't work too well there at all. So that I know that I don't have to deal with boat traffic when I launch there 9 times out of 10. So I watched him paddle down. He went straight to the rocks, which I was like, yeah, that's probably where I would go, if I, didn't know any better, because it's one of the few places you can visually see on Google Maps and say, yeah, look at that. There's a ledge system that goes the whole way across the river. So, but I started down there. The creek mouth was like the first thing that I usually hit. It's just a little bit south of where I launch. And sure enough, there's a guy standing right on the point, firing out across the creek channel. And he pulled like 2 or 3 in as I paddled past him. But I was like, oh man, well, there goes the creek mouth. Not going to be able to check that right away. So I worked my way down. There's a bunch of little grass islands. I like to hit the front of the grass islands a lot, especially when the water's high, because they tend to hang out there. And I think so like 6:30, 7, getting on near 7, I started hitting those grass islands, and finally on the one another creek, a little creek mouth, I caught a bluegill, and I was like, okay, first catch, got something in the boat. And I was like, all right, now we got to find some bass. I think as I started getting close to the first ledge system that you really hit there, where the rocks are out of the water, I caught one little dink, didn't measure. And then in the middle of the rocks, I started working a lot of the spots that I usually have pretty good luck with. Landed what I thought was something huge, and it turned out to be a catfish. And
I'm telling you, mine and your fishing stories sound so much the same, because I have the same mentality. It's like I fish with guys, and like we're in the tournament, they hook a bluegill, and they're like, dadgummit, that's a win. Like, it's okay.
oh yeah, yep.
Now that's out of the way.
Yep, you got to
And
start
then
somewhere.
exactly, and then then you get your first like 8-inch. All right, we're moving up. Got the right species. I don't know. That's changed. I definitely used to take it way too serious, and now it's kind of comical. Like, I kind of enjoy, like you talked about. You got into that, and then a catfish. Like, we'll call it a the oh Lord, the trash slam, I think, is what we call it. So it's like if you can catch like a catfish, a bluegill, like a bowfin, or whatever's in that area. Because like we did a tournament in a creek one time, and before I caught my first smallie, I caught like a 6-pound catfish, like a 6-pound drum, and then I caught a turtle. Like I was just like, I can't win. But it's just so funny. The story just I'm over here thinking like, geez, this sounds like every one of my tournament days. Like,
yeah, yeah.
But
so I hooked
going.
into that. I hooked into the catfish. I'm like, oh, this is great. It was really pull and drag and everything. And I'm like, wait, it's staying down. Yeah, I know what this is. And sure enough, pulled it up. Probably like a 24-inch, 25-inch catfish. It was nice size. And got my line all snotty, and I was like, okay, well. And that was right in this kind of some of the spots that I really, really do usually catch some pretty good sized fish. So I continued through the rocks, and I was like, by this time it was probably like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, so I wasted 2 hours and don't have a fish on the board yet. I got to do something. And at that point, it's kind of funny. A friend that I know was there fishing off his boat, and he was talking on his phone so loudly it was driving me absolutely bonkers. I'm like, just shut up! I'm trying to fish in peace here. And he's like talking as loud as you know how you talk when you're on the phone. You always talk louder than you think you are,
and then it carries on the water.
Oh
too.
My gosh! And I'm like, all right, I have to get away from this. So I was like, now's a better time than any to head down to that spot where that dude was cranking. So I was going to talk about the rods too. I brought 7 rods with me. I had a crankbait, a chatterbait, a Ned rig, a Jeff Little special. He calls it better than a jig. I'll show you what that looks like then too. And trying to think, I had a whopper plopper tied on, and trying to think what was the other ones. Oh, a tube. I usually have a tube. And so I grabbed my crankbait rod. First cast on the crankbait, just south of those rocks. It was almost like a topwater hit. As soon as the crankbait hit the water, bam! I didn't even start cranking it. It hooked up, and it was an 18-inch smallie. So I was on the board with a half decent smallie, so I was happy. I was like, okay, there's a start. 8 o'clock or at 8:30 or whatever. It took a while to get one in the boat, but that was all right. And so I started cranking then down through, approaching the area where that other guy was, but I was pulling up a lot of grass. There was, I don't know if it was just the flow was a little higher than it normally is, or a lot of boat traffic had been there the day before, but there was just, or north of us, but there was just grass. Like every cast, it was coming back. I'd have to clean it off, and halfway through it'd stop that wiggle, and I knew that it was not clean anymore, and just ripping it wasn't cleaning it. So I was like, all right, well, crankbait isn't probably going to work here. But I had asked the guy, when I talked to him about fishing down where he was, I was like, "Are you getting a lot of grass?" And he's like, "No, I was surprised there wasn't." So went down there, hit kind of.
So is this like roughly real shallow cranking?
It's probably like 6 to 8 feet. So it's not super shallow. I asked him, because I said, "Were you right on the bank?" And he said, "No, I was actually 15 feet off," which puts you in that 6, 7, 8, 10-foot max deep. And he said I was just casting just a little over a cast length away from the bank. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try it. And I didn't really have much luck with the crankbait. Either I was pulling up a lot of grass. I think I might have caught a dink or two on it, and kind of got down the whole way down that area. I saw 2 other guys fishing in bass boats that I didn't see either of them catch anything. and it looked like they were cranking too. So that's when I put the crankbait away temporarily and pulled out the Jeff Little special. So what that is it's a, I'll show you here. It's a bullet weight with a skirt. So he had there's a website that he had. So there's you put a bobber stop above this. You have the bullet weight with the skirt. Then he actually had a metal disc that he put as a spacer. I just used like a little bead, plastic bead, and then VMC flipping hook. This is a 1/0. It's relatively small flipping hook.
That is the
And,
smallest flipping hook I've ever seen. I didn't even know
yeah.
they made that hook that small. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so it's a VMC. It looks that's the package. And then on the end, he used a Z-Man bat wings. I didn't have. I had the smaller bat wings. That he used the bigger ones. So I actually used the Z-Man. I think this is the mini goats.
Mini goat, yeah.
Yep. Because I wanted he wanted something with kind of crawl emulating, like, so because you're gonna let it sit on the bottom and then the claws floated. Now the bat wings have way bigger flaps, but the only bat wings I had were the smaller, like it's more like a chunk bait than
Yeah.
the bigger bat wing has a little more body and actually took up space on that flipping hook. But so I started dragging that around and caught my next two. One was like a 15 and then a 14 and a half. So that was, I'm like, okay, all right, we're building our limit here. So after I catch the first fish, then my next goal is to, put together a limit, no matter how small. If I can find, 12 inches, 12 inches, it is what it is. I'll build from there. So I was like, all right, let's get a limit. So I dragged the jig down there in that area for quite a while. I picked up those two and, a few other dinks that didn't quite measure. And I was like, all right, well, I kind of wore out this area. And I was like, you know what? Well, I'll go back up to the rocks and try my luck there. Cause usually if I only went maybe 100, 200 yards off the shore across that ledge. And like I said, it goes the whole way across the river. So I was like, I'll just go back up and just ledge fish and see if I can, at least fill my limit. I got back up there, and for the next probably hour and a half, I caught so many dinks. I stopped counting at 20, and I usually take pictures of all my catches just so I have a record of how many fish I catch.
Just in case Milford ever wants to come back.
Exactly. It comes from that when we did that, because our rule for that was it had to be 12 inches or bigger. But I still, to this day, I catch every fish that I catch. I take at least a picture of. Even that bluegill, I took a picture of, and so I even stopped taking pictures because I was so fed up with catching dinks. And on the Ned rig, I was catching them all on the Ned rig, like a hot snakes Ned rig. It's my favorite bait for that spot. And I was like, I gotta switch something up because I'm just not catching the size. And I don't know what made me try it, but I switched up to the stupid tube and immediately caught another 15. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right, well, there's 4 fish. And then probably maybe 3 or 4 casts later, I caught another 14 or a 13, I think, something that got me my limit and put me on the board, or, got me, my 5 fish. And I was like, okay, good. So I have the limit checked off. Now I got to start culling. And I started working my way back up the river. It's getting on near, noon at this point, and I was picking up a few fish here and there with the tube, but nothing big. And kind of got back up to the area where I put in at around 1:00, and I was paddling up with a guy I just happened to run into on the water, and he was telling me, how he was doing. He's like, yeah, I looked at the scoreboard, and I was in 7th, and you were right above me in 6th or something like that. It might have been 7th and 8th. And I think he said, well, I don't think, at this point it's 1:00. It's hot, sun's right overhead. He's like, they're going to shut off. I think I'm just going to head in. And I was like, thinking at that point, I'm like, 6 is probably, one of my best finishes anyway. So I'll, maybe I should do that too. And then I got to thinking, I was like, yeah, I don't know. We still got an hour left. And there's a lot more. There's the entire thing of a river of bridge piers just north of me. I could go fish that. And I was like, all right, well, you head in. I'm going to keep fishing. And so I just started paddling north of where I fished, which brings you to that big bridge. And I was like, worst case, I'll just hit the bridge piers. And, about the time I got to the bridge, I remembered a spot that I had caught my previous PB smallie, which was 20 and a half or something. I was like, you know what? That's probably a pretty easy paddle up. It'll take me about 20 minutes to get up there, and I'll have 40 minutes to fish that area. It's a really good spot. After I caught my PB, at that time smallie there, maybe 6 months later, I took a buddy out, and we were in the same spot, and I was like, "Oh, cast over there, that right there," and he cast it and caught it like a 21-inch smallie, and I was kind of mad at that point. I was like, man, I shouldn't have showed him that.
I can't stand when I take somebody somewhere and they do better than I do. I'm happy for him, but I'm like, Jesus.
Oh yeah, I was happy for him because that was his PB at that point. Oh man, the smile on his face, he was super happy. But I couldn't be mad for long. But I was like, you know what, that spot is right up there. So I might as well, I got time. I got 40 minutes or so. So I pedaled up there. I got up there about 1:40. I made like 2 casts and caught a 19.75 on the tube. Nice. I was like, holy crap. And then I looked at that point. I usually don't even look at the scoreboard. And I just looked, and I was like looking for myself in 4th or maybe 6th or 7th. And then I looked, and I was like, holy crap, I'm in 1st. That fish jumped me from 6th to 1st. And at that point I was like, oh my gosh. So then I really started fishing hard because I was like, oh, I got to cull those 15s or that. I think I can't remember what my smallest one was, but I was like panicking then. I was like, oh man, I gotta find something bigger. So I threw the tube a bunch up there, and I did pick up 2 more fish, but they were like 14 and a halfs both. I think one might've culled something I had. But I fished there until, 2:00 on the dot, and then the waiting game, where I knew there was an hour left.
Late, who sandbagged?
I was like, I thought for sure that there was going to be somebody who sandbagged because a good buddy of mine that pre-fished there, like the same time I did, he caught 2 20s, 2 18s, and I looked, and he was like down in 3rd or 4th place, and I was like, oh man, one of these guys has got to have something. And sure enough,
the way I always feel is if I'm doing this good, someone's got to be doing better. I never feel like, oh, I've topped the field today. No.
no. And I thought for sure. So I was like, heck, that's probably, either way, wherever I finish, it's going to be my best finish because, unless everybody was sandbagging, but sure enough, 3 p.m. came and went, and I checked, and I was still at the top, and
secured that first win, man.
I did, yep, and I got big bass. Now I actually tied for big bass with another guy, but he did not pay the big bass pot.
Oh, so, bet you he won't make that mistake again.
I was like, oh, that is why I always pay, because you never know. I mean, even if you catch one fish, if that one fish is huge, then at least you get something. But so I ended up with a pretty good payday there because I had first and big fish, and we had I think 28, 29 anglers.
28,
so,
yeah. No, dude, that's awesome. It's like I said earlier, it's been cool that we get to see your progression to now. Because like I even remember like a time where you weren't fishing with the clubs, like you were just fishing, and then you've branched out to doing that, and now now you're winning and just consistently doing better. It's just cool to see. When I saw you post about getting your first win, I knew that I wanted to have you on to talk about it. Just I don't know, celebrate it, especially since you're one of our guys, one of the good
Yeah.
guys. But
Well, then I looked at, I missed two of our four tournaments when my mom passed away. One
mhm.
was actually that weekend, and I obviously missed that one. And then the next one, I still was, going through a lot, and so I skipped that. And now looking back, I'm actually in sixth place for AOI in my club, just on the two tournaments that I did fish, because I think I finished seventh in my other one. And I was like, man, now I almost wish I would have fished those just to see. But there's always next year.
And are,
If
are, and are y'all done, or do you have another one?
we have one more on this coming Saturday, and it's a joint event with the Kayak Anglers of Laurel Highlands.
Just
It's
win
on
that one too, man.
it's on the Juniata. It's probably going to be. I mean, that's where the 21 and a half came from for me. So I'm probably going to fish that same area. When I fished it last year, I was judging and fishing at the same time. So I did not fish it near to what I could have, and I still did okay, even judging. I judge for half an hour, fish for 15 minutes, then judge for another 10 minutes, and then so
Dude, if you ever need a judge, dude, just like shoot me a message. I do it for a lot of the clubs around here. I've done it for Tennessee clubs. It's all like you should never have to be trying to do both, man. Like there's so many of us that have experience like that, dude. Just reach out. I'll score. I score Matt and Brad's tournament they do in Ohio every year. Like,
okay.
but if you ever like want to, like, if this one coming up, like if you're supposed to judge and you want to really focus, just let me know. I'll score all the fish for you. Uh, I think you've got a real chance. You've got good history there. You're on a, we always talk about on here, like, riding the momentum, and maybe another win wouldn't secure AOY, but I mean, maybe top 3 or something,
Yeah.
So that would
Yeah. You never
that'd be
know.
that'd be huge.
Well, we'll see. I have high hopes. It is going to be probably double because we're doing two clubs together. So double the people, but I guess AOI, I'm not sure how that counts with if they take just your club in that, like your club's finish, like where you
They
finished
can
in your club.
normally when we
But
do a joint event, that's how it works. So like
okay.
if you were 15th, but you were the first finisher of our club, you would get your AOI points like you finished first, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, that's not how they have to do it, but that's kind of the common way to do it. So which makes it fun because I mean, yeah, you want to go out and do your best and win, but you can also and that's what gets fun about tournament fishing is when it starts to become a thinking man's game.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
where it's like, okay, my strategy here is to beat everybody in my club. Or like when you're watching a leaderboard, you might say, well, like there's no chance I can even catch the third place with how the fishing's going. But if I could call 2 more times, I might catch the guy ahead of me. But I don't know. That's when it gets fun. It's just like really or stressful. I mean, because that kind of
Oh,
is
yeah.
what kills it for me is like it's fun, and then I'm like, oh, I think too much about this. So, and then you're at where I'm at now, where like I haven't been on the water since 2 weeks before I cast.
Oh,
So
wow.
July 1st, maybe. Like
Wow.
I haven't. I was finally starting to get hyped up about it, and then broke my wrist. Can't do anything. Like I might can now, but I don't know. I don't think like right now is when I like to go like frog fishing. I don't think I could winch. I don't think I could turn the handle,
Hmm.
and I know I can't like I can do the movement, but as soon as I add weight,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think it'd be, and I'm not willing to chance it. I guess I'm trying to get wise in my old age because this is annoying. If you ever have the opportunity to break your wrist, just break your whole freaking arm. Just the wrist is stupid. Like it hurt a lot, whatever, but you don't realize like I'm an ambidextrous person, but you realize how quick you're not as much as you thought you were.
Oh, yeah.
Like it sucks.
I remember when I tore my labrum playing volleyball, and I had to have my arm in a sling for a few weeks, just letting that part heal before I could even get it reattached. And I took totally for granted all the things I do with two hands, just simple things like pulling up your pants. I went to the
Oh
bathroom the
yeah,
first time and I'm like, crap, I can't pull up my pants,
yeah.
honey.
Oh, I messed up in like it either was the day I broke it or the day after. I think it was the day I broke it. I've been icing it and everything, and went to the restroom, got my pants off with no problem, and then was like, "Uh-oh." But it was nice because then I just wore gym shorts for like 2.5 weeks. So, but it's just I'm so sick of it. Like I can't work efficiently because I run power tools all day. Can't do it with what I do. I can't do left-handed because it slings all the material towards you, and
Mhm.
I can't hold the parts with my right hand while I work on them. It sucks. Haven't been able to fish.
I was gonna say it sucks because you can't work, but then you can't. You have all this time, and you can't do what you really want to do with that time anyway.
Yeah, like, and I couldn't even like I like gaming. Like I do a little bit of gaming here and there. For the first 2 weeks, I could not game, couldn't hold a controller, couldn't use the mouse on my computer.
Oh man.
If I have the brace on, it's not even close. Couldn't play games on my phone because most of them you have to go landscape and use both hands. Like I was telling you off screen, I think I damaged something in my thumb. Couldn't do that. I don't know. It sucks. I've kind of just wrote this year off. Like I guess my fishing season. I mean, I'm sure it's going to come back, but I still think I'm going to have trouble with it. So I don't know. But enough about that. But so getting this win, and like we kind of talked about going into the next tournament, and what you're looking forward to. But what has that done, like, for your confidence in fishing in general? Like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. I'm not just the noob, which I mean I've never thought of you like that anyway. But like, did you feel like, I mean, obviously stuff that you're getting from your guests and you're learning as the noob, you're turning around and using, like you talked about, like that little rig that he was using.
Hmm.
Like, is it just kind of like setting it in stone that what you're you're taking in what you're supposed to and using it correctly? Like, is it really like cement that for you?
It does, and it just lets me know that I'm learning what I need to learn, and that helps me feel like I am in a position where I can teach somebody else or share it. When we first had our guests on, it was totally me just like wow, it was just like drinking from a fire hose, you know what I mean? And now I've learned so much that I feel like I can speak intelligently about a lot of those techniques and say confidently, yes, I've used those techniques. I know what you're talking about now. and
I
and
think not only that, but I think it gives you a very valuable perspective for like your show, what you're doing. You're not just the noob that's listening to these guests and taking it all in and letting other people listen to this show. But now, like, you have a different perspective on how to turn around and talk it out with these people. And I think that's like a killer thing for your show. And I wasn't kidding when I said it earlier, folks. Like, it's our number one show. If you haven't listened to it, I feel like with fishing or just anything in general you do in life, you have to always be a student. Like, you got to keep learning. It's whenever you think you know it all, that's when you either like, crest that hill and go down, or someone passes you. Um,
Absolutely. Just as soon as I get off here with Jimmy, I'm going to go record another episode with Randy Long, who is a smallmouth whisperer on the Susquehanna. He's
he's gonna tell
th-
him a thing or two. Be like, "Oh
he
yeah, well, listen
he
here, buddy."
he totally. I mean, he's completed Smalley games twice this year. He
Holy cow!
Yeah, he is incredible. So
For
I
anybody that
cannot.
doesn't know what that is, uh, I'll say it's a board game. Every fish, unless they change it, every smallmouth you catch from 17 inches and up gets you a certain like sticker that goes on the board, and when you fill the board in, it's like, I can't remember. I think there's prizes and stuff, but it's like being a master angler or smallmouth. The bigger the fish you are, so like a 17 takes up a square, where a
Well, it's a
19 might
little
take up.
different this year. This
Oh,
year
they
it
did.
is more like a board game where there are spaces. So, there's a wandering path to get around the board. And if you get a 20, you can jump a little gap.
Oh, that's
Whereas
cool.
otherwise, if you have all 17s, you got to go down around the bend and back up. But they also introduced some different game pieces this year where, like, if you catch, you have to catch a rat fish, like a fish on a rat bait, or you have to catch a fish on an insect bait, or so there's a few of those
Little
spaces in.
challenges. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So it definitely was cool this year, but just to know that this guest has completed it twice. I can't wait to pick his brain about fishing the Susky. He's a guide, and he started guiding now. And I told him, I was like, dude, I want to just pick your brain for as much as I can get, because I know that that's not me. He probably would have kicked my butt if he fished this tournament. So.
Well, man, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear that one. So, for everybody listening, when will that show air? The one that you're about to go record?
Next Monday.
Next Monday. So, if you listen to this on Thursday, so be sure to tune in on next Monday to check out that show. If you love smallmouth and love hearing about the Susky, it's one of the ones I love. We love doing shows about, because it's probably, I'd say it's one of my top destinations that I want to. That and Cayuga Lake in New York. It's like the two highest things on my list. Lake Fork got to do Lake Fork. Lake Fork kicked my teeth in, but definitely let me know that's worth going back. But
dude, I got a bed for you whenever you can make it up here.
Man, I wish that stuff had not got so chaotic this year, new job and everything, because I talked to you at the beginning of the year, and I had planned on coming. Whether I fished the tournament or not, I was going to spend the long weekend up there or whatever and fish the Susky, and it just didn't work out. But there's always next year, hopefully. Got a kid on the way, so I may not be able to do
that. Changes things too a little bit, but yeah.
Oh, buddy, we're close, buddy. November, it's almost here. I'm hoping it works out like it did for Garrett. I've been seeing Garrett's been having a chance to get back out on the water. So, but before we get out of here, well, we're gonna do what we always do, or we always try to do on the show, and we're gonna run over a couple of the tournaments that were happening last week. There's only 4, so it won't take too long. But real quick, first one up on the list, the Grassroots Bassiakin Summit Lake Series in Indiana. It was a multi-single day tournament. 25 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Ryan Reedy with 75 1/4. Second place, Missouri Waite with, that's a really cool name, 71 3/4. And third place, Justin Ayers with 71 1/4. Next up, you just heard about it here, the kayak anglers of Central Pennsylvania on the lower Susky, 28 anglers with a 5 fish limit. First place, the man, Sean Lavery with 81 1/4, kicking everybody's butt. Edging out second place, Jonathan Linker with 80 3/4. Third place, Josh Sims, 80 3/4. And again, he also got that big bass too with a 19 1/4, right? 19 3/4.
Yes.
Nice, big one. Moving on from there, we got the OKBT Swamp Donkey Challenge in Ontario, Canada. We love talking about these because if you didn't know it, they do some killer bass fishing up in Canada, and they got some big fish. 25 anglers, 5 fish limit across the 3 days that this tournament took place. First place, Scott Barton with 96 1/2. Second place, Terrence Conroy with 92 1/4. Third place, Gary O'Brien with 91 1/4. Next up on the list, the Tin Cat tournament on Melton Hill Lake, 26 anglers. First place, YouTube man, podcast man Alex Rudd taking the 3 fish win there with 52 interest. Second place, Chris Franklin with 49, and third place, Luke Graham with 47 1/4. So congrats to everybody on those tournaments. Big congrats to Sean continuing his road up to the thing, whatever that thing is, master angler, master tournament guy, #1 podcast for kayak fishing in the country, whatever it is. Let's see. I can't wait to see how you do at Del Hollow next time.
Yeah,
Del Hollow kicks all our ass.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's still a mystery to me, but I mean the one I didn't fish the tournament there last year. I didn't fish it this year either, but last year I caught what would have been big bass had I entered the tournament.
Yep,
because I had that 20 1/4 or 20 1/2 there, and that one I just lucked out and caught right in front of Brad Hurlboss and JP. So that was cool just to get to share that with them, that they got to see me catch that big one. So
yeah, well, I think I found a little bit of a cheat code for the time of year we're there. So at least one day next year, me and you'll have to go run those bluff walls that I figured it out on the last day we were there. So
all right,
we'll look forward to that. But Sean, I appreciate you coming in, man. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Congrats again, folks. Thanks for tuning into the Reel Down. We're so glad to have y'all around and try to keep everybody interested. And I think we'll be here for till the end of time. So keep listening. But for this week, that's it, and we will see you next week for another great show. Until then, peace.